Hello, everyone. Thank you for showing up. I'm so honored to connect with you each week. Do you ever feel like you're a weirdo? Like you don't fit in with the mainstream? When I ask that question at my seminars, just about everybody raises their hand. I attract people who are not quite normal. But I want to revisit with you today what it means to be normal and what it means to be natural. Many years ago, my mother sent me to the grocery store to get some applesauce. And I looked on the shelf, and the applesauce was on sale. It said Mott's applesauce, $1.59, natural or regular. And I looked at the regular, and it had all kinds of colorings and preservatives and all kinds of extra stuff in it, sugar. And I looked at the natural one, the normal natural one, and it said just apples and water. And I realized in that moment that there's a huge difference between regular and natural. And lots of us have become accustomed to living regular lives, which are not natural. So today I want to explore with you how to move from a regular life, from a normal life, to a natural one. Now, Course in Miracles tells us that the world is actually inside out and upside down. That the world we've created, the ego's world, is in pretty much every way the exact opposite of the way we were born to live. We've inverted truth and hid it under a myriad of illusions and distractions. Someone else said that everybody is in pain somehow, but some people are just better at hiding it. So we've ended up with a world of people who are disconnected from source, disconnected from spirit, and making believe that they're not. It's like the emperor's new clothes. Until finally some little child says, "Look, mommy, the emperor has no clothes on." Everybody goes, "Oh, yeah. We agreed to an illusion, but we're not going to agree anymore." I remember sitting one day in Tiburon, California, watching people come off of the ferry after commuting from work in San Francisco. And these people were not happy campers. They looked like really drawn. Their faces were all blanched. And I thought, oh my God, is that what work is? Is that what life is? Where you go to a job you hate and you struggle and then you come home tired? And I thought, oh, if that's the way life is on earth, I don't want any part of it. And there must be another way. There must be another way. And the Course in Miracles tells us that there is another way. It says that we could choose peace and we could choose to be in alignment with who God created us to be rather than who we made ourselves out to be. And we have to be very discerning because the illusions of the world come at us from all angles. And it's a rare person who rises above the illusions and says, wait a minute, this can't be it. And those four words, this can't be it, are actually some of the most powerful words of a lifetime. Because if you've been in a relationship or a job or a living situation or a lifestyle that grates against your soul and makes you feel smaller every day, and you get sick, you get emotionally sick, you get physically sick. So the best thing that could happen would be for you to wake up one day and say, wait a minute, this can't be it. I cannot believe that this is the life I was born to live. And while in a way it's painful to recognize that, it's actually liberating. Because it's only when we put up with illusions that we stay stuck and we break free and say, wait a minute, there must be a bigger truth than the one I've been taught, then our life changes. I remember years ago watching an infomercial, and it was a psychologist who had this TV series, and he was interviewing a very famous couple. The husband and the wife were celebrities. And he was depicting them as the perfect couple. They were smiling and looking good and telling the stories of how wonderful their marriage was. And then not long later, it was revealed that the husband, who was a famous person, was having an affair with somebody, and he was exposed by the media, and their marriage fell apart. And this was all going on while they were smiling for the camera, saying what a wonderful relationship we have. And it demonstrated to me that the image that we present to the world is often not what's going on inside of us, that there are things going on in our heart or a relationship or a body that run contrary to the image we're presenting. And so a lot of us live two lives, don't we? We're who we are in our quiet moments, in our personal, private moments, and then there's who we are, the image we're presenting to the world. And for a lot of us, life is about image management, like looking cool, looking right, looking perfect, fulfilling all the requirements that society lays upon us to be a cool, wonderful, attractive person. And when there's a gap between who we are and how we're living, that's where our pain lives. And the larger the gap, the more the pain. Until we find the courage to come out, whether you're gay or have a religious preference or lifestyle preference, whatever it is. When you start to close that gap between who we are and how we're presenting, then our pain diminishes because we're coming into integrity with ourselves. And I have a very simple definition of integrity. It's when the life you're living on the outside matches who you are on the inside. You're integrated. You're one person. You're not two different people. So a lot of our goal in life is to come into greater integrity and drop the illusions, drop the lies, drop the presentation, drop the image, and be who we really are. And that's what integrity is. I discovered a very interesting website. It's called Post Secret, all one word, postsecret.com. And there's a fellow named Frank who back in 2004 started an experiment. And he went to a college campus or some public place, and he gave out postcards with his address on them and a blank where people could write. And he said, "Send me your secrets," anonymously. And so people started sending him their secrets, that they hated their husband, or they were abused sexually, never told anybody about it, or they wish they had never done this or that, or some of them were funny. One lady sent in a Starbucks cup, and she worked at Starbucks. She said, "When people are rude to me, I secretly substitute decaf for real coffee." And some of them were shocking, some of them were touching. One of my favorites was a woman sent this to her husband. It was a secret until she sent it. She said, I never told you when the doctor called and said you're infertile. Congratulations, it's a girl." So she hid the fact that he was infertile, but spiritually he was not, because he conceived a child. So anyway, the point is, so this Frank fellow, since 2004, has now gathered over 500,000 secrets of people, anonymous, and he has a stack of them in his garage, and he publishes the weekly secrets. I think it's every Sunday. So the point here is not to expose people for their secrets, but to recognize that a lot of us live double lives. And there's stuff that we hide. And it's actually cathartic to reveal your secrets. Not that you need to reveal them to anybody or everybody, but when you do, that's what Catholic confession is about. It's about releasing that which was hidden so you can come into more integrity and not be living a lie. So back to the normal and natural theme. So many people who are extraordinarily gifted, who are geniuses, are not normal. they don't do normal things. And they do what we would judge to be weird things, and they're eccentric. And yet, simultaneously, while they've not invested in social presentation, they're connected to spirit. So Nikola Tesla, one of my heroes, he invented X-rays and AC electricity and fluorescent lights and wireless communication on the radio. I mean, he was an amazing, probably the most amazing genius of all time, who's tapped into the mysteries of the universe. And he was quite an eccentric character. He would not shake hands with people because of germs. And this was back in the 1920s, so this was way pre-COVID. He never had a relationship with a woman, but he did have a relationship with a pigeon. He had pigeons who would fly to his New York City hotel room, and he fell in love with a pigeon, so to speak, whatever that means, because he needed an outlet for his love. He needed to have some kind of intimate relationship, so he chose a pigeon. He was afraid of pearls. If a woman was wearing pearls, he would run the other way. So he had all kinds of eccentricities. He was not normal, but he was natural in the sense that he was connected to a huge font of wisdom that changed the world. He was 100 years ahead of his time. We are now just almost catching up to the brilliance that he channeled. So he was a great man, but he was not normal. Albert Einstein, the other great genius of our recent century, he would just out of nowhere break out his violin while he was driving and play his violin. He would eat crickets. He would find crickets in the park and eat crickets. I think he didn't wear socks. There are all kinds of eccentricities about him too. But look, he was a very noble man. He was a humanitarian, and he helped life in many ways. So, sometimes you have to trade normality for genius. Now, there are geniuses. Stephen Jobs also had his eccentricities, but he changed the world. So at some point, we have to give up our quest to be normal. Not that you have to be weird. Maybe you're weird from humanity's standpoint, from society's standpoint, but you're not weird according to God, because when you're according to God, then you're lined up with your truth. And that's, I'd rather be weird to the universe, weird to society and right to God than weird to God and right to society. Somebody once said about writing, he said, better to write for yourself and have no public than to write for the public and have no self. In other words, he was saying you can, better to trade off acknowledgement by other people to be in integrity to self than to trade integrity for acknowledgement. And what I found, however, though, that there really is a happy meeting point, because when I write for myself in terms of being authentic about what I want to share, so then people like that. People value authenticity. I guess I've made that guy a liar in the sense that I write for myself when I do have a public, because authenticity is attractive to lots of people. And you will be successful if you're authentic. Some people won't like you, but no matter what you do, some people won't like you. So you may as well be yourself and let the people who don't like you go their way, and let the people who like you show up. You'll attract the people who match you, even if you're weird. You attract like-minded weirdos, but then you have some fun because at least you're living your values and you're with people who believe in you and whom you believe in. I remember when I turned 40, it was kind of a pensive time for me. I was reevaluating my life. And I realized that if I hadn't become happy by pleasing other people for the first 40 years of my life, I would probably not become any happier by pleasing people for the next 40 years of my life. So I made an internal commitment to just be myself and trust my intuitions, trust my impulses, trust my excitements. And I would rather live the remaining 40 years of or more, hopefully, years of my life being integrally myself rather than trying to please people. You know, some people call pleasing people a disease to please. You're busy running around trying to do what people expect of you. I remember years ago, this fellow came to me at a workshop, and he said, and I didn't have much time to talk to him. I was doing something else. And he said, well, please give me some guidance. He said, I'm not sure what to do. He says, my boss wants me to do this, and then my ex-wife wants me to do this. My girlfriend wants me to do this. My kids want me to do this, and I'm being pulled in all these different directions. And I didn't have much time, so I just asked him a simple question. I said, well, you've told me what everybody else wants you to do. What do you want to do? You haven't considered that. I said, well, go home and think about what you want to do. And so he came back to the workshop the next day. It was a weekend workshop. And he stood on stage. He said, Alan Cohen healed me yesterday. And I thought, what's he talking about? He said, Alan Cohen asked me the most important question of my life. He said, asked me, what would you like to do? And and he said, I went home and I thought about it, and I just hadn't given that any thought before. And I thought, well, what would I like to do? And I came up with something that would actually work for the other people too. But I had to dig in and find out what I wanted to do. I had to tell the truth about my sincere choice. And I see this in Japan too. I work with a lot of Japanese people. And Japan has a very regimented culture, and it's all about image. It's all about pleasing society. And I've coached hundreds and hundreds of Japanese clients. And the one question that they have the most difficulty with is, what would you like to do? Because you know what the government says they should do, and their parents say they should do, and the religion says they should do, and the company says they should do. And they've not been trained to look within for answers. And so what I do in my coaching with them is I help them to tap into their inner resource of who they are and independent of the pressures that society places on them. And they have aha experiences, they have eureka experiences, because for the first time in their life, they're thinking about, what would I like to do? I want to see. And they get in touch with their soul and their choice and their passion and their integrity. And something shifts in them because they've taken their power back from external sources and they've reinvested it in an internal source. There's a book that came out in 2001 called Cultural Creatives: How 50 Million People Are Changing the World. And a couple of psychologists and sociologists came up with this idea of they studied people who were out of the mainstream. They didn't take traditional jobs, they didn't go to traditional churches, they didn't have traditional values, they were kind of renegades in their lifestyles, and they named them cultural creatives. In other words, that they were creating their own culture, they were creating from inside out. And at that time in 2001 or before, they identified 50 million of them just in our country. Well, it's 20 years later, so I'm sure there's a lot more by now. But the point was that there are people who don't fit in with the mainstream, and they're usually happier than the mainstream people because they've had the guts to live who they are instead of live who other people want them to be. They've had the courage to be natural to who they are instead of normal. So if you're not a normal person, you've come to the right place. I'm not normal, and a lot of the people I know are not normal, and I think we're all the better off for it. So if you'd like to join us and leave the normal group, come on over. You're most welcome. Jump on board. That's what we're doing this week. Okay, well, thank you for listening. Do want to remind you that starting on May 11th, I am starting my new exciting series called Soul and Destiny, very aligned with what we're talking about today. We're talking about tapping into the guidance of your soul, recognizing why you're here, living a mission that Spirit has assigned you, letting go of that which does not match your soul. It'll be very intimate, intensive, exciting 8-week webinar series starting May 11th. So join me if you care to. I will put the link under the video for today. And if you're still watching on March 31st, there's a pretty good discount if you sign up before the end of March. And the price is still pretty good after that too. So please join me, Soul and Destiny, starting May 11th. And please join me in being a not normal person, because we need more of us. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you next week.